Good morning. So welcome to the seminar stage, sponsored by Holland. We're glad you're here. My name is Jim Bartleson. I'm with the Chicago Office of Produce Business. Very pleased to introduce our next speaker, Mr. Jack Hamilton, who is the Director of MASH Direct, and is going to talk to us this morning about taking the fields into the city. So without further ado, Jack Hamilton.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Jack Hamilton from MASH Direct, and it's an absolute honor to be here at the London Produce Show. Just to get started for me today, I'm just wondering, could I have a show of hands for anyone here who's heard of MASH Direct before? Okay, we've got a couple who have heard of us, which is fantastic. So what I'll probably start with is what I'm not going to talk about today, which might be a little bit different from the other speakers, the wonderful speakers who we have at the show. I'm Northern Irish, but I'm not going to talk about Brexit today, which is a luxury for me. I'm also not going to be doing any finger waving or telling people to eat more vegetables and lecturing people. It's not what I'm here to do. You know, I'm the 6th generation on a family farm, and what we're all about is making veg a little bit sexier, making veg a little bit more interesting for people who are out there. So it's the finger wagging approach doesn't work for us, but making veg more appealing is what's going to work for us in the long term. And the third thing I'm not going to talk about today is how to get people to cook. And that'll become a little bit more apparent as we get through it. We're all about convenience. We're all about making vegetables more convenient and bring them into the modern marketplace and into the cities for people who are time poor, potentially cash-rich time poor, or even people who are trying to take a look at their budgets and seeing where they are and seeing where fruit and veg comes into that. So I'm not going to be saying that the solution to everything here is cooking, but there are many, many great speakers later on who will be able to talk about a little bit more about cooking. So instead, we've had a few talks this morning just about how we can get kids to eat more veg. I mean, for us, there's no real difference in how we market our vegetables. It's as much about marketing to adults as it is to kids, mainly because the adults are the ones who are going to the supermarket at the end of the day. They need to feel good about what they're buying, but ultimately the peer, the pester pressure from the kids isn't going to work in our marketplace. So, I mean, when we're talking about getting veg into the city and what we're competing against, we heard it this morning, it's competing against snacking, where the average American child under the age of 16 sees 16,000 adverts per year. And then you look at the spend on Happy Meals in the US per year is also $42 million. So we're up against a big, big barrier when it comes to advertising. And what I'm here to talk about today is how at a low cost we can make vegetables more interesting, we can make them sell better, and how we've built a brand around very, very simple but very healthy messages. So we're here to tell a story. I'm here to talk about branding. I'm here to talk about making vegetables easy, and I'm here to talk about how we've made vegetables fun and provenance more fun as well. So the first thing about vegetables for us as a family farm, and I'll come on to a little bit more about exactly what we do in a second, but it's an easy sell when it comes to advertising. It's easy to sell when we're talking about the power of online. I mean, these are things that we've grown in our farm this year. It's the color, it's the vibrancy. We can see it down here today. There's something exciting to sell, and you can see in certain stores around the world where they do the colors very well. I mean, we've got Spinneys in the audience here. A store you walk into in the Middle East, in Dubai, and you suddenly have color right in front of you as soon as you walk in. And that's the produce sector should always be. It should be the excitement and that color. And if we can bring that through onto people's screens, onto people's phones, that's what's going to sell it, and that's what's going to make us competitive in the modern marketplace. And this is a little bit more about what we do. It's then converting what the lovely produce is in the aisles as soon as you walk into the store and making that more convenient to the consumer, be that red cabbage and beetroot, be that broccoli, cauliflower. It's all of this veg that's made sexy by the media. They're talking about low carbs. They're talking about why veg is good for us. And we all know it. It's not something new to anyone out there. Everyone knows vegetables are good for you. So it's all about finding a way to add value to the vegetables and then grow the sales. And that's what we do at MASH Direct. So I'll introduce myself a little bit better. As I said, I'm generation number 6 in the same farm, the farm I was born on. That's me with my brother and my mum there. My brother rather provocatively holding up the potatoes, and myself as a baby in 1988. I'm 6 generations on the same farm, and what we looked at back in 2003 when we were starting what Mash Direct would become is how to add value to our produce, because as a small family farm from a small corner of Northern Ireland, we were going to go out of business. We were getting declining margins year on year for what we were doing, and we had to say, right, where's the industry going to be in 5 years? Where's it going to be in 10 years? And the big thing that we saw out there was that rice was becoming more convenient. It was that pasta was becoming much more convenient, and it was ready in 10 minutes. And we needed to find a way to make sure that vegetables could also be made much more convenient for the modern consumer, for somebody who's in a city, who maybe has 5 minutes to prepare their meal and is looking for something healthy, looking for something with low carbs, no additive preservatives, colorings. And we thought, we're on a family farm. This is all very straightforward. So this is us harvesting our first batch of Mash Direct back in 2003. My dad is driving the tractor in front of me there. You can date it by the fact that I have a huge afro in the picture as well. And my brother is driving the other tractor to harvest there. So it's, again, very, very simple, straight from the farm in Northern Ireland, and then straight onto the shelves of supermarkets in small packaging. So this should show you a little bit more. That's our branding now. The Mash Direct branding in front of our lorry there. It's my brother on the far left with my mum, my dad, and myself. Just a simple farm diversification to make vegetables more convenient and to sell more vegetables in the cities. Well, for us, starting off in Northern Ireland, but now right the way around the world as well. Just a little video about us. So you can see we've got quite a wide range at Mash Direct, the whole way through from our more traditional Northern Irish produce of champ, which for the uninitiated is a fantastic dish of mashed potato with spring onions, or scallions, or green tops, depending on where in the world you're from and what language you're using, right the way through to more modern products like our cauliflower, like our sweet potato. It's all about we go out there and we ask consumers what they want to see. And from our perspective, we've built our brand, and what we have built our brand on is listening to our customers. We go out there to trade shows, we go out there to listen to what the demand is in the marketplace and what it's going to be in 5 years' time. And we try and make sure that we're using our produce in a way that works for them. We also have people coming to us and talking about their values, which we can sell back to consumers as well. I mean, we heard this morning about food waste, and it's something that's a big concern everywhere for us and what we do. Because we're mashing and chopping and steam cooking all of our produce, it means we don't have the food waste that others would, because it doesn't matter if our carrots are a little bit wiggly, a little bit bendy. It doesn't make a difference when it's mashed and in a little convenient package. So we are now one of the biggest donors to FairShare in Northern Ireland, and we work in partnership with them. The FairShare brands in Northern Ireland are now branded as Mash Direct vans as well, to show the good work that they're doing and that we want to work in the vegetable industry in tandem with great organisations like FairShare here in the UK. So then how do we get this message across to consumers? How do we talk about FairShare? How do we talk about our health values? And how do we talk about the farm? And the easy way to do it is via social media. We are growing a wide base now across social media right the way around the world, with over 33,000 followers on Facebook. We have over 9,000 followers on Twitter, and over 2,500 followers now on Instagram, which we've just set up. And the way we've gotten this across isn't by doing lots and lots of targeted advertising just yet. It's just the same way we do in the farm. It's producing something that's high quality and producing something that people want to see out there. We've got consumers coming to us at shows right the way around the world to talk to us, and they want to come and hear a little bit more about our story. They want to see how we developed the story. They want to see how we came up with the messaging and how we diversified the farm. They want to understand how we can provide convenience in the modern marketplace, how they can chop 20 minutes off their cooking time. They want to see us go out to shows. They want to talk to us. I mean, in the last year, we handed out over 150,000 free samples. And when you hand out food that you've made yourself and give it to someone in front of you, especially in Northern Ireland, the feedback is very, very direct. And if somebody doesn't like it, they'll tell you. And if they love it, they will tell you. And it's been a great way for us to diversify our range and diversify our farm, has been just to listen to those people every single day. That's how we've got 40 products. It hasn't been us sitting in the kitchen chatting as a family and saying, oh, well, do you know what I tried and I liked in a restaurant? It was, I tried it, I liked it, I went out, I handed out thousands of free samples, and either they love it or they hate it, and they tell you to your face. And we do BBC Good Food shows, we do shows like the London Produce Show. We go out to do samplings, and we do samplings in Spinney stores in Dubai. We do them in New York as well to understand what the global trends are and understand where we'll go next. And we also get this feedback through our diverse social media base, through Facebook especially. We run free competitions, win a hamper, they get a hamper of a new range, and they give us feedback as well. And it doesn't have to be high cost. Any of this stuff, as I said, delivering high quality content, what people want to see in the city. You can do silly things in a farm, like plowing your name into the field, or you cut it into the field, get a drone shot. This went down really well. We had over 5,000 likes on this one picture. It's really simple, but the reach on that then went to over 300,000 people in the UK. Because, it's a bit of fun, and for a lot of people, especially in this city, they don't get a chance to go out to the farms, and they don't get a chance to go out and see, the fun that you can have on a farm. So to them, the window into that life is, in front of them. It's this. And if you can make that engaging and exciting and about your brand and about your messaging, more in a much bigger way than can ever be achieved through own label, white label, private label. If you make it about the brand and make the message emotional for the consumer, something that they want to buy into, you'll see sales rocket. And that's really how we've grown Mash Direct. When we started 13 years ago, people said to us, it's pre-prepared mashed potato. First of all, who's that lazy? And second of all, I can make it myself at home. 13 years down the line, look at where the prepared category is here in the UK. For those not from here, I'd recommend just going out and walking the supermarkets and seeing where prepared food has come to in the last even 13 years, and then think where it's going to be in 5 years from then. People are increasingly poor when it comes to time, and especially time poor when it comes to the cities themselves. So these are the veg solutions that I believe are going to solve a lot of the issues. It's not going to come from me wagging my finger and me saying, you need to eat 5 a day and then 10 a day and then 15 a day. It's just making vegetables easier for people to actually consume. And this is what we started from in terms of our packaging, just to show kind of how things evolve over time. You can kind of date this by the fact that on our cheese and onion we put a Z in cheesy tops, which pretty much dates it to the early noughties, to 2003, when people thought that was cool, when I thought that was cool. In terms of marketing, I was very much mistaken, and I listened to the people and we changed it. And now to the stage where we are selling, from the early days of people saying that will never sell, people will never buy pre-prepared mashed potato. We're now available in over 5,000 stores around the UK and Ireland, as well as an additional 300 around the world, including there in Dubai in the Spinney stores as well, which has been a tremendous customer of ours for a number of years. At Mash Direct, from a failing farm, we are now selling over 1 pack of Mash Direct every single second. So by looking at what consumers would like, listening to consumers, and using the power of social media, you can turn a failing farm and a failing produce sector into something really, really innovative. We've come from this. This is my grandfather in the white shirt there next to the horses. That's where we're coming from. It's at Mash Direct, our logo itself represents innovation. The tractor on it was the first ever tractor that man in the white shirt bought in 1951, which was our first diversification around what we were using to harvest the fields at that stage, which is on his right there with the horses. It was our first step away from horses, and that's why we'll always carry our red tractor on our logo as well. Right the way through into more modern consumer tastes. We're still listening, we're still diversifying. Even 5 years ago, if you'd asked me, are people going to move away from potatoes? As you may notice from the accent, I was incredulous that anyone could have a meal without potatoes. But now we're into sweet potatoes, and we're doing this. This was a billboard that we had up in London as well as in Belfast last month. Just a way of bringing something new to the marketplace. Again, it's about marketing convenience and about doing something a little bit different. And what we found is, the sales of our sweet potatoes shot up by this. And this is a billboard. I've been talking today about digital advertising and how that's the future, but it is worth keeping in mind that we are also an aging population here in the UK and in Ireland. And with an aging population, we've got to recognize that a lot of people still aren't on social media. So it's important to use the traditional in addition to the digital media side of things. You can also do really stupid things, like I did on April Fool's Day of this year. This is absolutely genuine. I'm not going to show you the video, but you can look it up. I managed to get one of the presenters of Sky News, which is one of the biggest news stations here in the UK, as well as one of the biggest international news stations. I managed to get the presenter to rub mashed potato into his face live on TV on April Fool's Day. We ran a message saying that the new health product, you talk about diversifying veg, getting people to use veg in different ways. I went on news saying that it was the new face mask, and it's an exfoliant, and it got national press. We got into The Sun, we got into The Times, we got into the Daily Mail for just doing something really silly, but the uptake was huge. The only slight downside, it's one of the most popular search terms for Mash Direct now, is mashed potato face mask, and I still get phone calls thinking it was a real thing. But it works, it's PR, it's being a bit silly, it's bringing the farm into an element where it probably doesn't belong, which is on people's faces rather than in their mouths, but it gets you the PR, it gets you the messaging, and then from that we're able to talk a little bit more about what we do on the farm itself. And that's what we do at the best of times. The number one way of getting people to try our product isn't getting them to put it on their faces, it's getting people to put it into their mouths. We still go out there, we sample every single day. We've got people on the supermarket floor handing out samples. This is our number one way of bringing the farm into the city itself, because if you can get people to actually try the produce, and if they understand the message, the provenance, and they have the trust in what you're producing on the farm and the trust in your brand, sales they absolutely skyrocket. I mean, we talk about vegetables, the problems that the vegetable industry faces as mainly being a consumer facing issue. The consumption is declining year on year. But if you add the excitement, the color, the story, the provenance, and the message behind it, and have it on their phones every single day to show them where that vegetable came from, how it was grown, and the family who grew it, you can find that the sales just absolutely go off the charts. Of course, we also do bring in the kids a little bit more. We do the mascot kind of things. We bring the mascot to the big agricultural shows around the UK. This was my colleague Tim at the Balmoral show this year with our red tractor, kind of a recreation of my grandfather's. And then you get to do silly things to get the PR as well, like having quads jump over the top of the red tractor as well, just to get the message out there, to get people talking more about the farm and to get into the press. So in very direct ways that we have brought the farm into the city through marketing, which I'm a marketing man. It's what I do for the company, what I do for the family business, and it's what we've spoken about being the main challenge in our industry, is getting more marketeers out there. Show you a few of the innovative things we've done in the last year. That's our Christmas tree on the farm, which went down very well, and we got national press with, as well as lots of press in the farming industry. In the middle, a very, very literal way of bringing the farm into the city is we converted in Belfast in Northern Ireland, we converted some of the bus stops into what looked like farms themselves, so anyone on a double-decker bus coming past would see the top of it and it looked like a field. So we put the carrots in on the top of it and then had the message of the reason we did that week was the first week of harvest for us in September. So people in the city who had no connection to what was happening on the farms around them, no idea of what was happening with what the farmers were up to, what's happening in the rural area, suddenly were able to see it right there on their doorstep. And that had a real impact on our sales, and also just people wanted to talk more about vegetables. People wanted to see what we were doing on Snapchat, what we were doing on Twitter. People cared. And it's something that, it can be frustrating in the produce industry every now and again, the belief that people, consumers don't care about where their food comes from, and, perhaps people believe that all they care about is price. If you've got a good price and a good story, it's always going to win the day. And on the right there, we also had, if you know what champ is, the Northern Irish dish, we had our Champ Elise for the Euro 2016 last year as well, kicking a football through there, all very straightforward, and another way to bring the farm into the city in a slightly more innovative way. And then in 2017, we've also had a few silly campaigns going on. We're not just all about being Northern Irish or about being British, about being Irish. We go down to regionality as well for Burns Night, for anyone who's aware of Burns Night in Scotland. A very big day of the year, very big especially for mashed potatoes and mashed turnip, neeps and tatties if you're in Scotland. So for that day, we turned our tractors tartan, and my brother there in his kilt or his drinking skirt, enjoying the day. We also advertised at the Six Nations as well. You know, when it comes to spuds, rugby fans are big spud eaters, so we got on very well at the Six Nations. Unfortunately, Ireland let Scotland win on that day. And then we also did a really silly campaign, which is up on the screen as well, which was our way of, we heard about bloggers and influencers at the opening presentation this morning. We sent out to all of the local influencers, Instagrammers, bloggers in our area, potatoes, which literally had written on it, "You're a hot potato." Silly little things. They posted about it. It ended up hitting national press again. Really, not much to it, but that was Valentine's Day. So some people were really impressed. Some people were a little offended that they were sent a potato in the post. But it worked. These things work. You've just got to find a way to make vegetables slightly more exciting. Potatoes seen as very traditional, not terribly exciting. But when you receive one in the post in a different way, it all becomes a little bit more exciting. And I'll finish with what has been the most important part of our innovation in bringing the farm into the city itself, and that's our video strategy. It's showing what goes on the farm day to day. It's telling our story. It's what I've been talking about today. It's the trust and the provenance that comes through, and it's what delivers the brand itself. Brands, I believe, are what's going to save the produce sector. There's been an increasing drive towards private label, towards own label. And what we're seeing is a reduction in consumption. I'm not saying that's the only impact. I'm not saying it's the only thing that's impacting consumption, but I think the more that consumers are able to understand about where their food comes from, the more stories they're able to be delivered through the brand, and the more trust that they have in the food that's being picked up off their shelf, I think we'll see sales rise and rise again. It's the colours, it's the excitement, and it's what we can do with the videos from the farm. You can see our views there. That even now is slightly out of date. Our target for this year, with no advertising spend behind it, was to get 1 million views by the end of the year. I can tell you, as of yesterday, we hit the 1 million views, and that's without a huge amount of advertising spend. It's low cost. We're just taking a video on the farm every single Friday. Very, very straightforward. If it's raining, people see it's raining. People understand the fields, they understand where their food comes from, and we see sales rise as a result. So to finish off with, I'll just show you a little video of exactly where we're from before taking the Q&As, just to show you how beautiful and how exciting the fields can be, and show you the kind of messages that work for consumers today. Thank you very much for listening.
Thank you, Jack. So questions? Questions for Jack? I have one to get us started here. So you emphasized throughout your presentation the significance, the importance of listening. You mentioned listening closely to what people say during sampling. How quickly do you take a concept or an idea that you might have learned, say, at a sampling session, and how quickly does it come to market in a packaged product?
That's a really good question. I'll tell you a story here. In this hall is also where the Quality Food Awards for the UK are hosted every year, generally in around November, December. And I'll not mention the supermarket, but the NPD team from one of the leading supermarkets here in the UK came across, and we just picked up an award for our chili potatoes, and they said exactly the same question. They said, "How long does this take?" And I said, "Well, if we like it, we can turn it around. We can get packaging made in 4 weeks, and we can be ready to go within 5 weeks." And I'll not repeat the 4-letter word that she said back to me, but she was very frustrated, because what you can get when you get into these huge organizations is people talk about like 30 gates and 40 gates before launching a product. We're a family business, so if we like it, we sign off on the recipe, we get the sleeves designed, get them made. The biggest lead time is actually getting the sleeves delivered back to us and getting the technical specifications and the traffic lights sorted out on front of pack. But it can be as quick as if we have an idea, we can turn it around in 4 to 6 weeks.
Terrific.
What's the life of the product, and how many SKUs have you got?
We have 40 SKUs, and the life of the product varies depending on the individual product, but it's from manufacture 12 to 14 days. So we are short shelf life. We are in the convenience sector, but it's longer shelf life than the sandwiches and the prepped salads. And then obviously shorter than stuff with loads of, we don't have any preservatives or anything like that, so it does have good life. It can get out to the Middle East with 12 to 13 days on it.
There was another. There you go.
Well, what do you find interesting, like, to encourage food consumption of fresh produce and the disconnection between the rural livelihoods and the city livelihoods? Like, what do
Sorry,
you find in...
I can't quite hear because the microphone's quite...
Like, you were talking about the importance to connect city livelihoods and rural livelihoods. Like, do you think there is connection between city livelihoods and where our food comes from is also the impact why people is not eating enough fruits and vegetables or unsustainable practices in the food system, and how, from your point of view and experience, how can we encourage to do this shift?
Yeah, I think at the moment there is a disconnect between the rural areas and the urban areas. Am I understanding it's how to bridge that gap? Is that the question? For us, yeah, I mean, I spend half my time in London and half my time on the farm in Northern Ireland, and those are about as polar far apart as you can get in terms of the UK, from rural through to urban. What I find here when I go out and do samplings on the supermarket shelves in London is people want to know where it comes from a lot more. People are asking questions and want to understand where it comes from. I think what we're seeing is it's disappearing from the shelves, and people, the first stage is people will still ask the questions, and the stage that I fear for the industry is when people don't even know what questions to ask to understand where their food comes from. So for us, the best way to get the message across is social media, to get people on it so that people understand where their food comes from a little bit more, and use every single low-cost media source that we can to talk more about what farming is up to week on week. Because I mean, people are still genuinely interested. I think there is a perception that people aren't interested in where their food comes from. But you look at any of the hipster restaurants in Dalston and Shoreditch and all these places, they will have, if they can, to the farm where their produce is coming from. And I don't think that's just something that exists right at the high end. I think it's a common thing. You want to know, first of all, is the food safe? It's the food industry. People want to know safety first. They want to be able to trust it. And then they want the provenance message as well. They want all of the happy, nice farming messages to come along with their produce. And I think the best way to bridge that gap for small producers like ourselves is social media.
Good question. Other questions? So, question, you talked a great deal about values to your company, values to your family. How do you communicate those values consistently through the social media, through the videos, and even through your packaging? How do you tie all that together?
Yeah, so the first point of contact most people have with Mash Direct is on a supermarket shelf, and it's really difficult to get across a lot of messages on what is a very, very narrow label, because the first thing is we want people to see what's inside the package, so we limit ourselves to how much of a sleeve we can have. So it's all about then driving people towards the messages we want them to hear, and the way we get that across first and foremost is making the pack look fresh. You can see what's inside it. The second point is that we have a reverse sleeve on, which we run every now and again, so that when people take the sleeve off and put the product in the oven or the microwave, they can then see on the inside of that there's a story, that there's something that they can engage with. And from there, once they read the story, then they get to the bottom of our family farm and our 6th generation story, and the fact we're gluten-free and all of these messages. And then they come to the bottom of it, and then it directs them to where they can find out more about us on our website, on our YouTube channel, and on our social media. So it's all about a journey for the consumer. It's going from the shelf itself right the way through to our full messaging on our website. It's a hard sell. It's a really hard thing to do, and I look after our marketing. I'm still not quite sure how to do that in the most effective way, but all we can do is try and get as much messaging in as convenient a way as possible for the consumer to understand it.
Hi, Jack. I really, really love the bus stop idea, and I'm having all these dreams about having, I don't know, carrots and whatever else every month for different seasons. I just wondered if you're measuring or evaluating the impact of these great ideas on either consumer awareness or sales.
Yeah, so we supply into a lot of the major retailers in the UK, so we're available in Morrison's, Ocado, Amazon. We'll be available in Tesco superstores from next week. And people, people talk badly about the supermarkets quite a lot, but one thing I will say for them is their data analysis is phenomenal. What we can do, for example, with the bus stop, to use that example, where they were, we're able to say, right, okay, what stores are near to there, and then use the supermarket data, which pinpoints, we can pinpoint which products sold best at what time during that day. During that time, we can see an uplift in sales in that particular campaign of 2.5 in terms of rate of sales. So it does have a big impact when you show people where their food comes from and get a bit of excitement around it. And my background was in a little bit more on the journalism side of things as well, so I'm very much on the metrics. So everything we do, I like to have a direct return on investment. With social media, it's low cost. With even the bus stops, it's low cost, high impact, because the first thing people do when they see the bus stop is they take a picture and they share it with their friends. And we were able to show with that campaign the 2.5 came from the stores around it. What we actually saw with our sales overall is they came up as well. As people shared it around Northern Ireland, around the UK, the increased awareness meant that we actually had an increase in sales. So yes, we absolutely do measure, and that's through Kantar analytics to get the PR as well as direct sales.
No further questions? I have one last question. So, were you the person who was driving the ATV or the quad over the red tractor? Was that you?
The drone over the red tractor?
You jumped it.
Oh, unfortunately not. I would love to have been. Unfortunately, our farm quad isn't that mobile. It's a bit too heavy for it.
Let's show Jack Hamilton our appreciation. Thank you so much.
Thank you.